Hello, I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, the podcast where I try to get Andrew to like musical theater. And Andrew, we have a very special guest today. I am so pumped.
Such a special guest. It's ridiculously special.
Such a special guest that if this goes badly, we could be kicked off of BPN. Like, that's how special.
We could be fired. I hear Death Squad, firing squads are back. It could be us.
It could be us. We could be the first BPN firing squad, recipients. But today, I want to welcome the host of the theater podcast with Alan Seals, and the CTO and co-founder of the Broadway Podcast Network, Alan Seals.
Hello. After this episode, advertisers are going to pay us not to air your episodes.
I'm surprised none of them have come up.
They're not already doing that.
They're talking about what? They said what about Tootsie?
Caddy and Crass.
Caddy and Crass. A Broadway composer's publicist once described our show that way. And honestly, we've been on the downhill ever since then. So, Alan, thank you for joining us and ruining your entire podcasting career. We're so happy to have you.
It's great to be here. I've been listening actually to you guys for a while, so it's this is exciting for me too.
Now, your podcast started just when we started. Like, we're kind of copacetic, like week to week, the same thing.
Really? Yeah. I think my first episode was early October 2018. So yeah, whenever
we started September 2018. So we're like almost neck and neck. So.
And how did yours come about? I want to hear the origin story, because I was like up at 3 a.m, couldn't sleep, wanted to hear people dish on what are the kids called? Kiki? I wanted to hear a Kiki about a Broadway show or something. And
let's have a Kiki.
Yeah, let's have a Kiki.
I've never heard of Kiki.
A Kiki's a party.
Kiki.
Yeah.
Haven't you seen Glee? They also mix in turkey lurkey time. It's great.
Oh, do they really?
We didn't make it that far.
I have seen Glee. I didn't make it that far though. You didn't make me watch enough episodes.
No. Things got sad in the real world for Glee, so we stopped talking about it.
So I was just like, well, I'm going to do it because I can't find anything I wanted, and that was also the impetus for BPN too, because I couldn't find anything that already existed. So that's me in a nutshell there. But I want to hear your origin story.
My origin story is very similar to yours, and I know I'm not charismatic enough to run a podcast all by myself, and nor did I have much interest in doing that. So I was like, Andrew, you've literally seen like 3 musicals and you've hated all of them. What if I just force you to watch a bunch of them and just get your reaction? Because he knows a lot about music theory and like studied music, but hates musical theater, at least used to. And
I didn't always hate it. I just didn't really know very much of it.
Now, nearly 120 episodes later, here we are.
Now I hate it.
Yeah, now
that you know more about it, you hate it.
Well, now that it's part of a schedule of what he has to do every week.
Well, this is the fun part. Oh, God, I love podcasting. I love talking to people and to bring people together to talk about something they love, especially when they're passionate about it. Mm-hmm. Like, this is... I mean, obviously, you've got the following, you've got the patrons, you've got this great podcast. People are following you for a reason, because they either hate you or they love you, but there's probably nobody in the middle. But
I'm going to say there's a lot of folks in the middle.
I think we might have people in the middle because they might hate me and love Jess.
That's kind of the thing. We've gotten emails where it's like, Jess, I know you're on the right side of this, but you're a host. Like, you can't...
Do you have
sorry.
Do you have a favorite email? Is there something that sticks out as like the worst thing that you've ever said, and you're like, I've done something right to get this hate mail?
It was literally a well-known Broadway composer's publicist who didn't like that we weren't glowing about the show.
Wow.
And described our podcast as catty and crass.
Oh, so you were joking about that?
No, that happened.
No, that was real.
That literally happened, and now we sell T-shirts of it. So
you got to profit off your haters.
Exactly.
Come on.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Speaking of like middle finger to the establishment, Alan, you decided what we were going to talk about today, and I want you to introduce it. What are we talking about this week?
Oh, wow, we set this up a while ago. I forgot I did that. Yes, so we are going to talk today about Jagged Little Pill.
Cue the music, Bree.
Did you think about your bills, your pills, your deadlines? Or when you think you're gonna die? Or did you long for the next distraction? And all I need now is intellectual intercourse, a soul to dig a hole
So Jagged Little Pill is a musical with music by Alanis Morissette, Glenn Ballard, Michael Farrell, and Guy Sigworth. The lyrics are also by Alanis Morissette, with a book by Diablo Cody, who you all might know for winning an Oscar for Juno and writing great things like Tully and Jennifer's Body. It's based on Jagged Little Pill, the original album by Alanis Morissette. It premiered on Broadway. It's like 3 days away from its 1 year, December 5th of 2019. It ran for who knows how long because it's still running, but COVID happened. Closing date, COVID. It was nominated for 15 Tony Awards, which is pretty good. And as of right now, the Tony Awards have not happened, nor have they been scheduled. So we'll see how that goes. The plot is the Healy's appeal to be a picture-perfect suburban family, but looks can be deceiving. When the cracks beneath the surface begin to show, they must choose between maintaining the status quo or facing harsh truths about themselves, their community, and the world around them. All right. So,
I honestly didn't catch that their names were the Heelys, and I'm thinking about the sneakers with the wheel in the heel.
Wheelies? The wheelies?
oh my gosh. That changes the entirety of this show. My gosh.
Now I'm changing my entire thoughts on it.
Well, all the choreography is them just walking around or rolling around on their heels while doing drugs. That's the whole show. The end.
No. That was the Little Mermaid.
Fair enough.
So, Alan, here's my horrible confession that I felt really bad about. When you said Jagged Little Pill, I was like, oh, this is going to be like Mamma Mia. All right, let's go. Because I assume jukebox musical. It's going to be a fun time where people are rocking out to Alanis songs.
It's like the opposite?
It is definitely not.
Oh man, it's funny. I have a Google Home here in front of my desk, and my pictures that I took from one of the final previews I saw have been popping up this week because, like you said, they're a year away from their opening. I went in to this thing. A friend and I went in, and we were like, "This is gonna be crap." Because we weren't fans of Alanis Morissette music in general. Like, I'm not that target demographic of the album from the 90s. And and I was blown away by how good the show is. It's
ironic.
Not. Oh,
Shut
don't
up.
you think?
Both of you, stop.
I have to. Someone has to.
He's been waiting. Did you see he's leaning and he's like, I'm waiting for this one.
It's that, and then I have the joke lined up from the Emperor in Star Wars Episode 3 where he says ironic. Well, come on.
I mean, we all agree that when Alanis Morissette was going down on Dave Coulier in a theater, they were at Star Wars Episode 3. And that's when she got the idea for ironic,
That's where she gets the lyrics for ironic.
And then you travel back to the 90s to release that album, and it all works out.
I didn't know she dated Dave Coulier. Is that true?
You Ought to Know is written about her breakup with Dave Coulier, and that is literally the only thing I knew about Alanis Morissette before going into this musical. That was the only tidbit of information I had.
Oh man, I just know him from, of course, Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos and the Jackalope voice, right?
No, that's Bob Saget.
Oh, Bob Saget. Wait,
no.
Who did? No, he did. Didn't he do Funniest Home Videos too?
Did he do? Did Dave Coulier do home videos?
I honestly don't.
He did.
This is something we'd have Bree look up, but now I have to look it up.
Be our Bree, Andrew. Because I don't think he did.
I know he did the Jackalope voice, and I thought that was America's Funniest Home Videos because it was like fast as fast can be, you'll never catch me. You remember that?
That is definitely Dave Coulier. Like if that was the voice, that was 100% Dave Coulier.
Yeah,
he was on Full House, which is like AFV because it both has Bob Saget. Anything with Bob Saget is basically Full House.
I guess he was in Extreme Ghostbusters. He's on America's Funniest People.
Was that
I don't see Funniest Videos.
It could have been America's Funniest
America's
People.
Most Talented Kid.
Anyway.
Alanis Morissette dated him, got broke up.
World's Funniest Videos?
That's what it maybe? I don't know.
Oh my God! Someone made watched AFV is like they took someone from Full House and then cut a bunch of footage to it. We're gonna do that.
They were like, let's get the other guy from Full House and then cut a bunch of footage to it.
Oh, John Stamos said no. I guess we'll get the other one.
The other one, other one.
The other one.
So not to throw shade at Dave Coulier, but my God, to have such an anthem like You Ought to Know be about the guy who did the Popeye impression on Full House is like a redonkulous thing to think about.
I don't know. I love that the fact that like, comedians themselves are like some of the most unhappy people, and that's what makes them such great comedians. So to know this dark side about not Bob Saget, about Dave Coulier is kind of fun for me now.
Sure,
It
sure there's
reshapes a
lot
little
dark
bit of
side
my
about Bob
childhood.
Saget.
Right.
I met Bob Saget too, and you know Bob Saget's humor is completely filthy. It's dirty. It's horrible. I mean, horrible in a good way, if you know what I'm saying. And but yeah, they put this wholesome cast on Full House. I'm sure it was fun backstage-ish. I don't know. I'm not going there. Those kids were young.
Yeah, those kids were young. Bob Saget went there and got into a lot of trouble behind the scenes. I read his biography. Yeah, he got into trouble. But we got to talk about Alanis. So, Alan, you had no connection to Alanis Morissette before seeing this show.
No, none at all.
Wow, that is actually shocking for me because I assumed you're an '80s baby. I'm willing to bet, or
80. Yeah, I just turned 40.
So I'm surprised. Like that was your generation, technically.
Well, no. I know the songs. I like the whole You Don't Know album, right? That's the name of the album.
Jagged Little Pill is the name
Jagged
of the
Little
album.
Pill. Right,
Jagged Little Pill is the name of the album.
Obviously, that's what we're talking about. Her album was called Mulan 6, right? Okay. And that whole album, like I know it. I knew all the songs because they were played all over the radio, but I wasn't like, this is my album. This speaks to my soul. Like, if I'm being honest, just between the three of us, don't tell anybody, Hootie and the Blowfish was my jam.
That's great. No, I think that's wonderful.
So I'm just putting that out there. I love me some Darius Rucker.
That's fun.
But no connection to it, Atlantis other than just knowing about the songs. I know it was like, a hit. Like she had the hit in the 90s. Jewel had her album in the 90s. It was an anthem to people. And that was all I knew. And then I heard, they're making a Jagged Little Pill musical. We don't, exactly what you said at the beginning, we don't need another jukebox musical. That's just not, it's not something that really matters. We don't, this isn't going to be good. And then when I went in, I purposely, when I know I'm going to see something, I don't read anything about it because I want to be surprised. And the farthest I'll go with anything, movie or otherwise, is to see a trailer. I don't want you to tell me anything about it other than what's in the trailer. And for musicals, though, I don't read reviews. I don't read anything. I want to go learn it for myself. And went in, and my friend who was with me, who's also a musician and has been on Broadway herself, we were just blown away by how good it was.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, me and Andrew are sitting here from different parts of not New York City. When we totally went to New York to see this live a week ago to talk about this specifically. Yeah, that's totally what we did. And front row seats. Somehow we got Zooms and everything involved there, but so Andrew, what did you think of it?
Yeah. So I don't know anything about Alanis Morissette at all. Is this a jukebox show or is this like a forced concept album?
So this is a completely original story that has rewritten songs plus one or two originals. It's
two originals.
It's two originals, yeah. All of the songs are completely rewritten. They're arranged in a modern way, and Alanis, of course, was part of that process. But
yeah,
didn't Tom Kitt do most of the orchestration arrangements?
Yeah. Tom Kitt did a lot of it, and of course Alanis was part of it. And but the way the story. Okay, so I'll give you the story in a nutshell. It could be argued that it's a Christmas show in the same way that you could argue.
Hold on. Andrew, you left the door open. The Christmas came in. Oh my gosh.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. We let in the Christmas. This is a Christmas episode. Surprise. Bet you weren't expecting that.
I'm
you
trying
hear
to
that?
figure
I hear
out
the
now.
snow falling down.
I've seen the show and I'm trying to figure out how this is a Christmas show.
Alan's about to explain it, but it is a Christmas show.
In the same way that people will swear up and down that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, it's not about Christmas. It just takes place. Like the story is bookended at Christmas. It's the holidays. It's the show starts in one year, ends in another year of the holidays. It's a full year of the story, and it's like the story is deep. It's about white privilege. It's about adoption. It's about addiction. It's about rape. It is
Christmas.
Everything that sums up Christmas.
All right, get the firing arms. Like we're done. We're off the network.
So, and it is just all of this rolled into this amazing package that the cast. I mean, you look at all of the Tony nominations; they are so amazingly well deserved. I mean, Tom Kitt got a nomination for his orchestrations, and even Catherine Gallagher, who I interviewed Catherine Gallagher on my podcast, and Elizabeth Stanley, and in talking with the two of them about how they did the show, like. Diane Paulus, the director, who also got a nomination, like she had everybody go in and do like pick a research project when they started. Like the cast, they picked a research and something that spoke to them, whether it was very serious, and it was like, do you pull up something that's like, do you want to talk about sexual assault? Do you want to talk about white privilege? Do what something? And of course, this was 2018, I believe, that they were doing this, or early 2019. So it was before this cultural reckoning that we're going through in the middle of, or now at the end of 2020. And, they have talked to me, Catherine and Elizabeth, that just talked to me about the way that they learned so much about themselves and about each other. And like Catherine said, she's gone through her own personal experience with some of the content that was in the show. And they've got the intimacy director, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but this is one of the few shows that in the last 2 years has now had an intimacy director, so which now should become a thing, right?
Yes.
Have you heard about this? Like, I think Slave Play was the first show on Broadway to use one.
That's what I remember hearing.
I'll play the fish out of water here. What's an intimacy director? What does that mean?
So there are scenes historically, in all of entertainment where you have like sex scenes, nude scenes, anything where you're intimate on stage. And
oh, I get you. Okay, I understand.
Right.
Now.
So it's someone who is there to facilitate basically the choreography of whatever that scene calls for. So there's this scene, a gorgeous scene Catherine Gallagher sings, where she's talking about her character is the one who gets assaulted, and the whole ensemble is just groping her in a slightly uncomfortable way to watch, and all of it is choreographed down to exactly on what beat where the hand goes on her body. And so she knows exactly where to expect everybody's touch every single night. And it's something that is now just starting to become the intimacy director, that position. Claire Warden, that's her name. Claire Warden has actually been used a couple times. And that position is starting to make its way into productions now. And I hope when Broadway returns that's just something standard. Like you have a dance captain, you have a choreographer, you have your musical director, and you have your intimacy director. You just need that.
I agree, because you hear horror stories of like amateur productions, like, and just how like an amateur production of Spring Awakening is like terrifying to me to think about. Like, and so I'm glad this is becoming commonplace, and I hope for like intense emotional shows that becomes a thing. So I love what you said here, and I love that it talks about all these things. It does feel a little Saturday morning, like, special to me sometimes.
I think it's the tone of the music with the seriousness of the topics sometimes clashes a little bit, because, I mean, it is pop music, essentially.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not quite fitting for very serious subjects, but I think that they try their best to handle it in the best way they can. I just don't know if it always lands tonally for me.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you said that, because thinking of it objectively now as somebody who hadn't seen it, I can see exactly how that would come across if all you've heard is the music, because you can't see how they're setting up the scene. But because the way that it's being presented, I mean, and look at the rest of the Tony nominations, right? You've got the costume design, scenic design, lighting design, all of this. The whole picture is so good that it worked. It really did work in person.
So the staging is what really sells it, you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of the same way you go back to Spring Awakening, right? Like, My Junk, what the hell is that? I didn't know what that song was about until I saw it on stage. And then
the thing is, like, sometimes even in Spring Awakening, it gets a little too poetic into the rock styles. And even in early versions of Hadestown, it just gets into like metaphorical, like gobbledygook, and when you kind of need like specificity in musical theater, I find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, in all seriousness though, if you guys can, as soon as you can, go see this. It's worth it. And Andrew too. I know that you're just gonna sit there in the front row with your arms crossed, with the grumpy face on. But
Well, of course.
Yes. Well,
But I only listen to jazz and classical music, and anything below that is just kind of beneath me.
It's not worth his time.
would it not be?
That's a joke, by the way.
Well, you're a musician. I would love to see you rewrite all of your favorite musical, if you have one, in completely jazz arrangements. That's your challenge for the new year.
We have thought about doing very similar things, is the thing. We have had conversations. Alan, I hope you'll forgive me for talking about something that has been brought up to me by some of our trans and non-binary viewers. When I was like, hey, what are your thoughts on Jagged Little Pill? I just kind of want to make sure I get where the general consensus of our fans are before we talk about it. And one person is like, I have some feelings about the recasting and reframing of Joe's character from like the Boston tryouts to the new Broadway version. And do you know anything about this, Alan?
No, I don't. What is it?
So in the Boston tryouts,
Drama time.
Yeah, here's drama time. It's interesting, and I can see an argument for all sides of it. And it's something I've been trying to do research on, so I'm not misrepresenting either side in any like mean or malicious way, because it's just a thing, and art is subjective. But in the Boston tryouts, well, currently on Broadway, Jo is a lesbian. She is a lesbian cis woman. In the Boston tryouts, she was non-binary trans, and she was still played by Lauren Patton. That's her. And she's wonderful, and I've heard great things about her. But a lot of people had issues with her playing a trans non-binary character without her being either of those things themselves. So rather than cast someone else, they decided just to make her lesbian now and get rid of all the character's innate transness, which a lot of our viewers came out and said that's not great, and we don't really like that. It was such good representation, we just kind of wanted a different variant on. And then you took it away and then kind of removed a lot of the nuance from that character. And me as a cis man, like listening to that and hearing them out, I'm like, yeah, I get that. And thinking about the specific lines of the song You Ought to Know, is he a perfect version of me? Is he perverted like me? And you can have his baby. Like those types of things coming from a trans body where they want to be these things, but they physically can't. Those hit a lot harder than, say, the Jo in the current production. And I just think about that. I'm like, man, artistically, that feels like a lost opportunity to me. And it's not like they didn't have a trans person in the cast. They have Lauren's understudy, who is Ezra Menez, who could have very well done the role. So it's a confusing situation, and I feel like it's hard to handle on both sides. What they are now doing is saying that Jo was always a cisgendered person, which just decidedly is not true. And by specific people, I'm talking about Diablo Cody specifically, who is wonderful, and I love her work.
Diablo's publicist, please don't write in.
Yes, please don't write in. But specifically, I'm quoting playwright Haley St. James, who has seen both the Broadway run twice and the off-Broadway Boston tryouts, and was comparing the two and felt like they were being gaslit a little bit by the show with them, claiming like, oh no, she was always cis, and then they were like, I saw the show, I know what I saw.
There's an opportunity to,
there's no right answer here. It's just like,
no,
this is a thing that I felt like I would be lost if I didn't bring up, or at least for discussion.
And they're already hitting a lot of other topics like that.
Yes.
But it feels odd that they kind of shy away from that topic when they're already hitting all these other ones.
Right. And I don't know I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I know the producers. I don't know who the producers are in this. But when you look at shows like The Prom, which is centered around a lesbian couple, and the marketing behind that, of course, Dory Berenstain, other co-founder of BPN, was the head producer on The Prom. And I asked her once, I said, why did the marketing have nothing to do with the LGBTQ plus community? And the unfortunate situation of show business is that it's a business. And when you've got these tourists coming from other places that may or may not come from countries where it is illegal to be gay, or from the middle of the country that may have voted for the other person that you didn't vote for. Do you want to, when you want their money, how do you market to them? And I wonder what kind of feedback. My guess when you first started telling me the story was that they probably got some feedback of like, this makes us uncomfortable as the people who are generally the people who have the money, disposable income to go see Broadway. And so they fixed that. I put in air quotes fixed, 'cause,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
They altered it to appease them.
Right.
Removed.
Right. So you've got like the prom and I don't know if you've discussed Head Over Heels. Did you talk about that show?
Not yet. That is on my to-do
Not
list.
yet.
That
Oh
sounds
God,
like
I'll
such a
come back
good
for
show.
that one. Love Head Over
We'll
Heels.
save that one for you.
I'll see if we can get Bonnie Milligan on here. We can have a little guest.
Oh, that would
guest
be a
host.
lot of fun.
So loved that show. That was, and Peppermint was the first non-binary person to play. No, sorry, I gotta get this right. I know I won't. Peppermint was the first trans person to play to originate a non-binary character on Broadway. Mm-hmm. I think that's right. Yes. And again, story about lesbians where one of the leads is non-binary. And that was another marketing problem because and then you said it in Renaissance with the music of the Go-Go's, and it was just like strike one, strike two, strike three. But the book and the music was phenomenal. It was such a good show, and it pushed boundaries. And you need shows like The Prom. You need shows like Head Over Heels. You need these shows that are sort of like trying to get there. And I think maybe in 5 years it would have worked to keep Lauren Patton's character as a trans person. But maybe not right now. 2019? No, maybe post 2020, because 2020 has been a shit show. Maybe post 2020, it would have worked.
I mean, I almost tweeted something a little snottier than I probably should have. Like yesterday, like as of recording this, Elliot Page came out as trans, which is really cool and just great. I almost tweeted something a little snotty, and I was just as a joke, but I was like, I probably shouldn't do that. Which was, hey, at least one Diablo Cody piece will have a trans actor, trans character or whatever. But no, that would have been bad. But I agree with what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but also it's one of those rare times where I feel like actual character motivation is changed from that change in a way that I feel like is detrimental.
Right.
And that is where it's a different anomaly here than, say, like just toning down the marketing or something or other.
Right. Well, yeah. So in the way that I didn't see the Out of Town, so I don't know how it was, but on Broadway, it is that Lauren Patton is a lesbian, and her girlfriend is Frankie, right? Is a woman of color who is adopted. And Elizabeth Stanley is her mom in the show. And so she's ends up being bisexual. So the whole, like, would he do this? Would he do this? Can he do this? That makes sense in the context because she's now gone off and started dating a guy and dumped the girl.
It's like, it works both ways, but I can imagine, like, a trans person that saw that original version then comes to Broadway and is like, oh no, the representation I thought is not there anymore. And it could be for various other reasons, which would be like, we got a lot of other stuff here. We got pill addiction. We've got sexual assault. Maybe that was just one thing on the scale too far.
Let's talk about the pill addiction. I think that's that one is one of the major ones that actually comes through the whole story.
Yes. Yeah, Elizabeth Stanley. Yeah, her character is because of dealing with her sexual assault from her past and everything that's going on. She gets addicted to painkillers. Yeah.
Oh my God. And the staging specifically is amazing during all of her scenes. Like every one of those is like so beautifully choreographed.
Yeah.
She what is she overdose at near the end or something like that? Yeah, that's pretty serious. There's so much serious stuff in this. I don't even know how to talk about it, It's a difficult discussion.
It is a tightrope to walk, and I think this show does it pretty well, all things considered. Like, not one story feels like it's getting more attention than the other, or one feels heavier than the other. They all feel very evenly weighted, unlike other shows that I really love, like Next to Normal, where it feels like, oh, heavy stuff, then a joke, and then heavy stuff, and then a joke.
I just feel so bad for the father character in this one.
Why?
You know?
He learns to play an Alanis Morissette riff at the end.
That's true. That's true. You know what? Never mind. I don't.
I am curious if that breaks the world a little bit. Like, when she goes up and reads her poem, isn't it ironic? Why isn't one kid like, hey, that's just Alanis Morissette? If Alanis Morissette exists in this world.
Yeah, they're breaking the fourth wall, but they do make fun of it.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, it's not ironic.
I mean, they're right.
No,
they're right. It isn't ironic.
Right.
None of the lyrics are ironic. Which maybe that's the irony. It's a song called Ironic, and there's all these examples of irony, but none of them are ironic.
I honestly do
That's ironic.
Not to be this guy. I honestly do think that was Alanis's intention. To be honest, like, write a song called Ironic about irony, and none of it's ironic. That is the most ironic thing you can do.
It's so ironic.
She is playing chess while we're all playing checkers, guys.
8D chess over here.
She really is God from Dogma. She is controlling the whole world.
You know what this show doesn't really have much of that you would probably see usually is where's the cultural backlash from all these issues, you know? We have like LGBT characters, but we don't see any of the dude bros beating on them, you know?
That's not really a thing of modern young people. It's more microaggressions. That's what this show shows a lot of, is the microaggressions.
I would argue that it is a thing. It is a thing with younger people. There's a major movement of that kind of right-wing sort of,
the
like,
thing
Ben
is,
Shapiro
I highly
talk.
believe that is not the majority. That is the minority, and they stay in their little corners. And everyone
always have
knows
been
who
the
the white
minority.
supremacies are in your school, and they hang out in a little corner, and no one talks to them. And then you in your little group, and everyone's like, oh, it's good, and they're all well-intentioned, but maybe do the wrong thing, like touch a black girl's hair without permission and all that.
Yeah, microaggressions, lack of understanding, or just lack of awareness, or
Yes.
I mean, especially these past couple months where you're hearing these panels and talking about hearing from people of color who have been through these situations where their whole life they're just trained to look the other way. And I've got one of my best friends is a black man who came out to me about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I want to say, but like all through college, whatever, dated girls because that's what he was supposed to do and whatnot. And or that's what he was told he was supposed to do. And now that he's out, he's dating, we talk about all sorts of things, and he's a super, super great guy. And I saw him the other day, socially distanced, of course, and we dove into this conversation, and he was just saying, like, as a person of color, right, your parents are like, if you ever get pulled over, doesn't matter who you are, how you're dressed, where you are, just like hands on 10 and 2, don't move, because like all of these things that as a white man, as someone who presents as a white man, I never have to think about. I've never had to think about. And so seeing Jagged Little Pill, especially as a white man who has been to frat parties and has been to sort of these situations where I'm like, well, that's kind of funky, and I've actually had to step in real life to remove a female friend of mine from a situation that I thought wasn't. I mean, I thought the dude was just being a jerk, but it
happens a lot of times.
Right? Yeah. I mean, right. But it's I don't know kind of where I'm going with this. I'm sort of rambling, but I guess hopefully you get my point in that the shows like Jagged Little Pill, that due to all of the subject matter rolled into one, I think it's the right time for the show. I think it's exactly what we needed, and it's going to hit in a completely different way post-pandemic because the world has just changed so much in the last year. And I walked out of there thinking about things in a way I had never thought about them before, in a good way. Mm-hmm. And reflecting it back on myself and my own actions.
I get that. I 100% get that. I had that very similar experience when I listened to A Strange Loop for the first time, which was like an eye-opening album for me alone. Like, oh my God, these specific things, like, well, Michael R. Jackson grew up in like my area. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. He's from Detroit, Michigan. So a lot of the specific references and the types that he portrays there are like people I know and the types that I know and the people I grew up with, and like hearing specifics about their experience that I had no idea about is like horrifying, and like, oh my gosh, I've been in situations like that and seeing that, and oh my god.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. The thing is, like, you said you were from Colorado, Alan?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
They're
My
right
God.
next to each other. So
Are
I
they
can
really?
see-
Right,
Yeah. I can see how you
basically
gotta
the
miss that.
same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywhere that's not like Midwest normal.
You
New
climb to
York
the top
area.
of the Rocky Mountains, you can see them both.
Right.
I mean,
Right. There's actually a zip line from the Appalachian Mountains to the Rockies. So
Yeah.
you're nice. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. The frat scene was not something I knew about. Like, even in college and all that.
I
Like,
tried because, again, I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Okay, if this contextualizes anything,
Yes.
boys choir into community theater, into a computer science degree, and in college was the director of my a cappella group. So frat parties for me were an alien world. I was like, what's the dude? Hello, fellow kids. But I was a kid, but I still didn't know how to act like that. How do you do, fellow kids? That whole world, I was like, oh, this is where you go to meet girls. And then I was like, oh, these are the girls I don't want to meet. Ew, ugh, okay. So then I just joined an a cappella group, and my life
that's
was
where
so
you meet the
mean.
ladies. That's where you meet the
meet-
ladies.
And
men's choirs where I meet all the ladies.
That's right.
You say that, but it is the truth. All right. Now we got our favorite segment. It's Bree Views, where our producer Bree usually reviews the New York Times critic reviews and just gives a general sense of how we feel compared to them. But today we're gonna call it Ben's Views because we've got a very special guest in Ben Shapiro who is gonna read
Oh my
all these
God!
reviews.
Do I have to do a Ben Shapiro
Yes, you
voice
do.
the whole time? Oh God! People like the Ben Shapiro
They
voice.
love the bit.
All right, hypothetically, okay, I'm in it now. Are these mean reviews?
They're
The
not.
New York Times critic.
No, they're pretty fine.
Yeah, that's
they all
good.
liked it.
Okay. I feel bad reading them in a Ben Shapiro voice, but here we go then. The New York Times critic Jesse Green says, "This makes it seem, inaccurately I think, for this is the rare jukebox musical without even a whiff of
Mendacity.
Mendacity.
No,
Mendacity
I don't think you're
about
ready
it.
for this. Let me do this.
I'm not. You read this one.
All right. New York Times critic Jesse Green says, "This makes it seem, inaccurately I think, for this is the rare jukebox musical without even a whiff of mendacity about it, that the creator's top goal was to pack in as much of Miss Morissette's catalog as
Verbose.
possible. Still, Jagged Little Pill features some astonishing 22 of her songs, including all 12 from her 1995 album that gives this show its title. 8 others come from later releases. 2 are newly written for the occasion. They sound fantastic, if a little undifferentiated in Tom Kitt's arrangement for a 10-piece band." Which, I don't think that's an unfair thing to say, but I do think, like... I get what it's trying to
that's
say,
good.
but I feel like it doesn't quite say it. It's like, yeah, they sound a little the same, but they're all written by one person. Carousel all sounds the same if you go like that. That's unfair when you're talking about a musical. It's a uniform piece. Cut it out.
When you start looking up one big word, I'm just going to tangent here. You go down this rabbit hole of other big words you have to look up. So I looked up mendacity, which means
Yeah.
untruthfulness. But then in the example that it gives is people publicly castigated for past mendacity. And I was like, okay, what's castigated mean? So,
It's like a...
What does
to
castigate
It's when you're
mean?
like outcasted,
to
right? I don't
reprimand
know.
someone severely. So
Oh,
if someone
reprimanded
was
severely.
lying, they get the beat down. That's basically what okay. So mendacity is just lying, untruthfulness, dishonesty, deceit.
All right, Alan, this isn't a really good show to sum that up, but we have a theory at the New York Times, specifically Ben Brantley's reviews. He only reviews good musicals or musicals that he likes. And when they're bad, he just writes some flowery language nonsense that just says it's bad in like 3 paragraphs.
It is nice that he retired.
I hope he enjoys his retirement thoroughly.
Andrew, as the protagonist, antagonist, the bad guy, yeah. As the antagonist here, I would feel like you would agree with Ben Brantley a little bit.
Oh, of course. I'm the heel of the music theater world. We all know that.
Well, the thing is,
Now that now that Ben Brantley's retired, I have to rise up and take his place.
Well, do not throw away your shot.
Oh, New York Times
won't.
theater critic Andrew DeWolf says, I don't know, it was fine.
It was fine, I guess. If you like shit.
One of my favorite things I heard Jimmy from Jim and Tomic, he was reviewing
Yes.
the Cats movie, and he says, well, I didn't not like it.
I mean, that's as fair as you can say about if you like the Cats musical, which I know that Jimmy does, that is a representation of what that musical is, for better or worse.
I feel like the Cats movie is honestly maybe the best version of the show.
I would not disagree with you, depending on how many substances you're on when you go to see it.
The thing is, all right, when I saw the Cats movie, I watched it and I was way too drunk. And I went home and I'm like, did I see what I saw? And I had to go back and see it again sober to make sure I saw the things I saw.
Did you see the unfinished version or the finished version?
I saw both. I saw the unfinished one because I saw it the night it came out.
Yeah.
And that very drunk. And I was like, I don't remember. Like, is that it or was that me hallucinating? So I saw it again and I was not hallucinating.
No. I CG errors. You saw shoes on the bottom of human feet. You saw. Oh God, it was bad. The show was
It was a great show.
The final cut was not delivered until 3 hours before the first premiere. And my theory on this is that it came out the same day as Star Wars, right? So the good visual effects houses were off doing Star Wars, and then what was left had to work on Cats.
Well, the thing is, they were trying to do very good counter-programming like they did with The Greatest Showman, which made like a $1 zillion, and they premiered it right against The Last Jedi. And both saw very good results from that. So they're like, all right, we're going to do The Wicked in that year. They're like, no. Tom Hooper wants to do Cats, and we don't have anything prepared for Wicked, so we're going to push Cats forward.
Yikes. Well,
Imagine we
even
could have
if
had
the
a
visual
Wicked movie
effects-
last year. Think about that.
Even if the visual effects were perfect, that movie would still be awful.
Yes.
it was just not. I mean, this is not the episode about Cats, but I just want a wide shot. I want one damn wide shot to establish the choreography and stop cutting between all these tight shots. It's a freaking show about dance. So we can't see the dancing in a show about dance. Not that there's a plot in the first place. They had to create a plot for the movie.
They didn't have to. I mean, you could have just done a dancing show. You don't have to create a plot just because it's a movie. But
We got to do our second review. Hold on. The Rolling Stones' Jerry Portwood states, "Sure, the production wears its earnestness on its sleeve, but it does so honestly and openly that I forgive it. It's like a spoiled teenager that you want to throttle for being so self-involved and whiny, but can't quite reject because of its enthusiastic beauty and unspoiled passion. As its name has always been so annoyingly suggested, Jagged Little Pill is that essential bitter medicine that, despite our jaded impulses, must be swallowed and enjoyed so we can be cured." What the fuck does that mean?
is he trying to say that, like, you have to watch it?
You have to
get
watch
cured
it to be better as a human being, despite
a
the fact that it's
person?
so pretentious, I guess is what he's trying to say.
I can't even fathom what he's trying to get across. You lost me, and I started paying attention to how you were doing the voice. That was more impressive. But if he's saying what you think he's saying, I agree that it kind of made my point earlier, right? In that you have to see it all to process it, because hearing the Cast album, you don't quite figure it all out, but you have to swallow it. You have to ingest it visually in its entirety to get the full picture. I agree with that. +1.
I would never
It's a
say that you
spoiled
want to.
teenager that you want to throttle.
That's the specific line that I'm like, who wants to throttle a teenager? Okay, boomer.
Oh, I've been throttled. I was a horrible teenager.
I doubt that. You seem like a joy.
Oh no, I was a little shit. I can't wait for my kids to follow in my footsteps.
Teenagers should be miserable. That's
Speaking
the
of
point.
throttling teenagers, let's go into a Mitchell announcement and show you these ads that 100% do not support throttling teenagers. Let's take a listen. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, who's supporting us on Patreon, and what the fuck is Patreon?
Oh my god, Patreon's where you can go if you'd like to donate to us and help us support the show, and we give you extra content and stuff. I don't know. Our current patrons are, and here we go, let's go fast. Melissa Goldman, Terry Needleman, John Donna, Max Lunick, Lily Ackles, Danielle, pardon me, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Taskier, Fire of September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maniri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Allison Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Irrigale Drouet Whiter, Christine Malmadel, Cole Birchfield, Mary Lou Choquette, John Vanels, Holy Staccality, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Andrew Van Baherson, To Blam, Kyle Summers, Janae C., Kyle, Felice A., Skylar, Liz Lim, Corey Wilmarth, Allison Stuller, Nothing is Certain Except Beth and Taxes, Elizabeth, Thespian, Ren Cullen, Jamie Holland, Wait in the Wings, Lady Malvolia, Spectacle Machine, Jacob Stroop, Robert Benjamin, Rachel, Jessica Tubis, and Billy Hefner.
They give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. And if you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as Patreon-only commentaries, our episodes a day early, video episodes, and a ton of other crap, come join us over at Patreon. All right, let's get back to the show.
All right, time to talk about the music.
Yes.
We've made it this far without ever talking about
We really didn't talk about
Morissette's
any of the
music.
music.
There's music in the musical? Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
wouldn't you be
think
shocked?
so. I don't remember much of it, but I'm pretty sure there's some in there.
Basically, every answer is you ought to know.
Yes, the answer is all you want to know. But this is more or less a classic musical theater structure. No one really writes a pop song with the word I want, except apparently Alanis Morissette, because we start really with All I Really Want, which is Frankie, Mary Jo, Steve, everyone's I Want song, and it works. It somehow works.
All I really want is some peace, man. A place to find some common ground.
And all I really want is a wavelength. And all I really want is some comfort, a way to get my hands untied. And all I really want is some justice.
All right, Jess. So if this is the I Want song, who's the main character?
I think Frankie's the main character in terms of the story, because she has the I Want song, and she leads the I Want song. Yeah, everyone else chimes in with what they want, but she is the leading force of the I Want song, and she kind of is the black sheep of the family and the story, so to say. She is the one thing out, and the one thing not really connected to specifically the mother and the son story.
Well, the story follows the mom, though.
It does, though, but she is the first person we see, but I have a theory that I basically have shoved down everyone's throat since the very first episode, that the I Want song is the main character, and there are very few delineations from that. And that can lead to a lot of discussion between this. Like, is the I Want song to Fiddler on the Roof Matchmaker, which would logically line up as the second song in the show, and they actually get what they want? Or If I Was a Rich Man, that comes after Matchmaker, because that is Tevia's song, but he does not get what he wants. So who is truly the main character with the set in stone goals that the story is about?
Fiddler's long enough that all of them are the main character.
It's not an ensemble piece, though. It is not an ensemble piece.
Well, do you call... Okay, so then Jagged Little Pill being told through the perspective of the mother, like Fiddler's told through the perspective of Tevia, is Jagged Little Pill an ensemble show?
It is. I think it is an ensemble show, but the main story arc is told through Frankie, in my opinion.
Huh. I think we have to agree to disagree here.
Which is fine. We love doing that on the show. Me and Andrew leave, actively angry at each other sometimes.
I'm actually going to lean towards Jess. I do think Frankie is the lead in most cases here.
I wonder though if, and I'm playing devil's advocate because I don't know what I think on this, is because maybe Frankie has more of the, well, maybe I'm making your point for you. Frankie has more of the conflict. So, or more of the more of the issues that we're working through as an audience. We're going on more of Frankie's journey, but it's being told through the eyes of the mother. So I think I may agree with you now. Now that I've-
Everything ties
now that
into,
I've
everything ties to Frankie.
Yeah.
And Frankie's the only one that has like, I'm gonna go get my goal, where everyone else is like, things are thrust upon me to have to face my demons, as opposed to Frankie, I'm gonna go get the thing.
Yes. Okay, I see your point. And maybe I agree with you, but I'm not going to say I agree with you.
Not publicly. You won't write
Not
that
publicly.
down.
No. Remember at the beginning where we're like, we'll say things we regret? Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Nice.
I will never put on paper that I agree with Jess McGainley.
That's the right attitude. That is the right attitude.
So what do we think about All I Really Want?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, everyone. This is for
I-
everyone around the table.
Well, I'm waiting for patrons to pipe in here.
So I'm gonna say a lot of the music in this is kind of samey to me.
Oh, you sound just
Maybe
like the New York Times reviewer.
I'm agreeing with the New York Times critic in a way, but I don't know. I don't think it's because of the arrangements though. I think it's just because of the style of music. A lot of these songs are meant to sound similar because they're all from the same album from
Right.
the same artist. You know,
in the
so
in the same time frame. Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't find anything wrong with it, because if you have songs that all sound completely different, then they don't sound connected. There's no musical through line.
I think that there can be some. I like it when there's some differentiation between, like, hey, this character gets this sort of instrument in there, and they have this different sound to go with them, but it all has to tie in eventually. But with these kind of pop musicals, it's always just like it's songs. They're meant to be fun, and that's it, and it works.
Go ahead.
I don't remember what I was saying. Go ahead, Alan.
No,
What do you got?
the pop style, it's interesting because when you look back through sort of the history, there's Rent changed. Rent was like the end of the British invasion, because it was Cats and all these other Sondheim and these big shows that were all from guys in Britain. And then Rent came along, composed by this guy, written by this guy that nobody had heard of, and all of a sudden it just changed, and everything was rock from that point on. And then now Hamilton came out, and now you're getting representation. Aside from musical aside, you're starting to get a lot more representation. You're starting to get a lot more like the R&B, and a little bit more of the new type. I'll put in air quotes the new type of music, but everything cycles through over the decades. But so Hamilton is changing it again, and then I love how, again, in the scene altogether, with the lighting, with the costumes, with the story, the music works. And I never thought to myself, oh, this is the same thing I just heard. It was pop, yes, which I am personally a fan of.
I like pop music as well. I'm not saying the music is bad. Pop music itself, though, it's meant to be commercial, and it's meant to be kind of something you can listen to easily. So there's not always a lot of thematic depth to music that is written in that style. And I think that you see that a little bit with this, where there's... I don't think you could point to any character and say that they have like a theme that comes back for them musically in this show. I could be wrong.
I think the closest we get is Frankie, and Ironic plays quite often with her. That we set that up as like her piece, so to say. So that is the closest one. Aside from that, not particularly.
Yeah. Whereas in other shows written by those British invasion type guys, they always have like a theme for characters that comes back and weaves its way in.
Don't you dare give Andrew Lloyd Webber that much credit. He writes 5 songs, repeats them, and calls it a musical.
That's true. I mean, those 5 songs are attached to different characters, though. I mean,
No, they aren't. Sometimes, Raoul starts singing the manager's song. What's going on? What?
You're right. I'm giving him too much credit. You're right.
Now, if you were going to say Alain Bobille and Claude Michel Schoenberg, they're not perfect, but they do write themes for specific characters, and they only come up for that character.
Now, that's not the only thing, though. I think the other part is that this is a jukebox
Yes.
show, so these songs were written before the show was going to happen, so obviously they weren't even considering that this would be a possibility when they were writing the songs. So
Boy, that sounds
That you don't
ironic.
get
Let's
that.
talk about ironic.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic.
Yeah, I really do think.
It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. It's the good advice that you just didn't take. And who would have thought it'd figures?
Ironic is great because they're in the scene in the schoolroom and she's reading off this poem that she's written, and like, again, we talked about this earlier, is that it's not actually ironic, and that gets called out in the scene. You hear it in the album, is that somebody's like, oh, actually that's not ironic, and so that you get a whole laugh about it, because that's the thing that is growing up. Being a child of the 80s, we talked about the whole time. We're like, oh, that's not ironic. And so now seeing that on stage, we're like, ha, 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 validation. Pat on the back.
God,
You know what? I wish that they had done the thing that we did, which is the irony is that none of this is ironic, despite it being called ironic. And then I'd be like, "Fuck, that's deep." Diablo
Well, that's
Cody, you
pretty
should have come out here with with that.
That's deep, bro. That's deep.
That's deep. That's deep. I like the song. I really, really like the orchestration specifically to this song, because let me go into this. Before I listened to this musical, I had only known 2 Alanis Morissette songs. One is ironic. One is You Ought to Know.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing this and be like, oh, this is different. This feels like part of a story. This feels like part of a story. It's great.
I think the only thing I don't like about this song is the interruption is funny-ish at first, but they kind of keep doing it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you got the joke in. Can we listen to this song now,
Yeah, ironic. I went in expecting that to be one of the main, like, whoa numbers, and the fact that they underplayed it so much, I actually really, really liked it, because it set up.
I was expecting the reprise at the end of Act 2, but it never happened.
They should have had more reprises throughout the show, in all honesty. I feel like that's the one thing the jukebox musicals never do, but should do.
Is reprise?
Yeah.
Well, doing a reprise would actually alleviate some of what I was saying, where they don't have themes that come back. Because if they do a reprise, then it does come back.
You know what musical does do reprises and is a jukebox musical and is super effective with it, which is why it's better than the first one, is Mamma Mia 2.
Wait,
Mamma Mia too.
there's a Mamma Mia 2?
Yeah, it came out in theaters. It was the movie sequel to the movie.
Jess is actually a big Mamma Mia stan.
I'm I am not a Mamma Mia stan. I think that second movie is really good.
Not sure if I'm having a heart attack.
Alan, have you seen? You didn't even know the sequel existed for one. So,
Well, I saw the first one, and that was one too many.
it's aged on me better now that I'm an adult, and because 2008, that's when that came out.
He's grown into it.
I kind of have, because I'm like, I saw it like
Maybe someday you'll understand.
I saw it in a double feature with The Dark Knight,
Mamma Mia
and I'm
ages
like,
like a good wine. You have to swirl it around and taste it and spit it out a little while.
how dare you? You have not seen Christine Baranski dance around on a beach and not been like, you know what? This is pretty
10
great.
years from now, Jess is gonna have his own show, and he's just gonna talk about Mamma Mia, because he's gonna be like, all other musicals really just don't compare.
It's like Jillian Poncevalle, like her Hamill-cast. I'll have the Mia cast.
the Mamma Mia cat. Well, that
Hopefully by then we have at least 5 Mamma Mia movies.
Yeah,
Like, we just keep getting more.
they're saying they're gonna make a third one now because the second one did gangbusters in cinemas too.
when did the second one come out?
Last year, I want to say.
Oh, I did. I was busy starting up business. I didn't see movies.
But
we
Lily,
have so many more ABBA songs to use.
I mean, they kind of do though, and I think the second one uses the ABBA song so much better because it was made to be a movie musical, and it works so good. I think that second movie is great, and more people should watch it. It's not like gonna win any Oscars, nor should it, but I think it's a lot of fun.
Actual most controversial opinion you've said on this show ever.
I think so.
We needed like a soundboard here so I could play the record scratch. So, wait.
This isn't gonna win Oscars.
Okay, we gotta go on to something else. Let's talk about Perfect, which is Nick's one big number, and Derek Klena gets to rip all of our hearts out.
How long before you screw it up? And how many times do I have to tell you to hurry up? With everything I do for you, the least you can do is keep quiet.
Derek Clinton. Look at their nominations. He didn't get nominated, did he?
He didn't.
not.
Aaron Tveit.
Oh, he did. He did. Featured actor.
Oh, he
featured
did?
actor. Yes, featured actor.
He's
Yes.
supporting actor. He's not.
You sure about that? He has one song.
I guess.
I mean,
But it's a good song.
I mean, the dude is good. He's good.
He's really good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about like I saw this a year ago. Literally, like I said, literally a year ago, and what I remember the most is nothing against Derek. I remember him being good, but there was nothing that I was like, "Wow, I can't believe he did that."
Well,
And
I think
yeah,
I think his just plot line is the hardest to sympathize with because
that's the point, right?
of that very reason. But this specific song, I think Alanis wrote a good song about something that means a lot, which is you trying so hard and still never feeling like you're doing enough. And I think he performs that well, and then his entire subplot is how he didn't stop a rape.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's...
Oops.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to stop. We literally have not talked about this character at all throughout this point of it. We have not brought
I feel
him
like
up.
this is not a character you want to talk about.
No, because he's Brock Turner, basically, or...
Well, he's not the one that does it.
No,
is
but...
he? Or am I wrong?
No, and I
No.
appreciate the show not being like, oh, isn't he a hero for going to the police? When, no, of course, that's what you should have done in the first place, you dumb kid.
Well, right, and that's
Well, yeah, but he takes so long to go to the police. Does it even matter at that point?
The thing is, with Alan's anecdote about him not know things might have happening and him not knowing it, Nick is aware of what probably happened, what is happening, and is super aware and super smart, and still doesn't do anything. And that is what makes him a piece of shit to me, is his awareness that this was wrong and this is happening, and still apprehension
like
to
even
do
when
nothing about
even
it.
when it's brought to his attention and he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I'm still not going to do anything though.
I have too much
like,
at
that's
risk.
when it's like-
my Harvard
Yeah.
degree or Harvard.
Yeah, that's
acceptance.
where it's kind of like, if it was like he was like in denial a bit or something, like I don't think I saw that.
Right.
That didn't happen.
which you don't
That's-
really get across.
Yeah, he does. It comes more across like I'm not gonna do it because it's gonna hurt me, and I'm not getting involved.
But the same
Which
with
is
the
a bit
mother
different.
character, which it does conflict his feelings a bit because she's like, "Don't go to the police; it'll ruin you," and all that. And he's like, "I want to," and that is where I understand his conflict, and I wish that was more of the conflict and not
Also,
more
does
of
it
his
end?
internal.
Does it end
conflict.
with him going to the police?
Yes, it does.
yeah.
Is that really the right message? Because is that the right thing to do? If you know somebody is a rape victim, you go to the police on their behalf.
I don't
Is that
know
the right thing to do?
because that once again she didn't want to go to the police for X, Y, and Z, and it is another situation of removing her consent from her own story, which is
Yeah.
a question that I don't know if I'm smart enough to have. If you want the honest opinion,
This is all way above our pay grade here.
we're a dumb musical theater podcast, and it's like
Don't come to us for this. This
Yeah.
is not.
we make jokes about farts. That's what we're here for. My name's McAnally. All right, we gotta talk about one more. We're running real over, but this is a lot of fun, and Alan's a great conversationalist. But we gotta talk about You Oughta Know.
It was a slap in the face, how quickly I was replaced. And are you thinking of me when he fucks you? 'Cause the love that you gave that we made wasn't able to make it enough for you to be open wide. No, and every time you speak his name, does he know why you told me you'd be there until you died? Till you died, but you're still alive. And I'm here to remind
I think it's a really good song. I mean, this is definitely the song, other than maybe Ironic, that's the most well-known.
It is the literal showstopper. Like, I was hoping we would end with this.
It's
standing
It's
at,
so weird they gave it to this character, though.
but it's I mean, I don't know, it works. I don't know who else it could have worked for. I would love to talk with Diane and Diablo one day and to say, like, which sort of came first, did the chicken or the egg, in terms of did you write the story around the songs, or did you have the story first and then fit the songs into it? But it works. Literally, Lauren Patton just crushes this performance, literally stops the show every single night because the applause goes on forever. Like, well-deserved Tony nomination on her part. Hope she gets it. But overall, just she's talking to the audience, she's talking to Frankie, she's talking to herself. It spans everything, and I think it works.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the performance or the song itself or any of that. It seems weird that it's like almost a side character is the one that gets the showstopper, you know?
Right. Right. Which probably answers the question then, what came first? Obviously, they had all these songs and they said, all right, so here we go. Here's the message of all the songs. What story can we weave through them? It wouldn't make sense to have any of the other characters as written to have any sort of song like that. But then it reinforces Jess's point that it's an ensemble piece. So Frankie's got her own song, and
True.
and Elizabeth Healy's got her own songs, and like, everybody's got their stuff. So why not give Lauren a song too?
It's so weird that we have 4 songs after this, but really it feels like, all right, what, bring down the confetti. We're done after this. Like, man, give me a cigarette. I mean, you get it. You got to wrap up the plot and all the narrative ties, but my God, after that, it's like, oh, that feels like an 11 o'clock number when it's technically at around 10:15.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, you're just waiting. You're in this audience. You're waiting for it. Like you said, there's 2 songs you knew about going into it, which was Ironic and You Ought to Know. So you heard Ironic earlier on, and that's the one that not having the entire 90s album memorized that I'm waiting on. And when it comes, it just smacks you in the face in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Shit, I just realized, and I know we're like mostly done with the podcast, we didn't even mention the love triangle. We did not mention the fella that is in the love triangle with Frankie. And like, Frankie's convinced she's in love with this guy that she has no reason to be convinced she's in love with.
Teenage angst.
Yeah, she gets very upset about it too. It's like, I don't know.
She goes off to New
he
York, and she's like, come with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got a sister to take care of.
Like, you kidding me? We just met.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack, and I can't wait to see this again in person, especially with a year having gone by. And
COVID will end soon. It will come back, right?
I hope
Yeah,
so. Fingers
Easter is
crossed.
what I hear. He said it was gonna be like it's gonna go up and all the churches will be open and like we'll be back by Easter.
On Easter, we will all be reborn again.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I'm making a face. I'm making a face.
Making a face.
Remember when
Making a
he
face.
said that? Remember?
Right. That was like Easter 2020 last year. Yeah. Not 20 this year.
Yeah. You know who doesn't make a face, though? Our wonderful listeners. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, at Musicals with Cheese. Alan, it's your turn. Promote all your stuff. You got a lot of great stuff.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So, BroadwayPodcastNetwork.com, you will find Musicals with Cheese. You will find my...
We're there.
Yeah, you're there. You will find
Right now, the firing squad's coming up, though. They're gonna kick us off. This was a horrible
We're going to
failure.
live
We're
stream
gone.
the public spanking.
Oh, no.
And my podcast, the Theater Podcast, which... in hindsight, horrible name for a podcast. It's just
not
a theater
that
podcast.
bad.
It's so generic.
I mean, it's like when you're descripting it, it's like, what podcast? It's the Theater Podcast. Yeah, but which one? The Theater Podcast.
But you gotta say
Well,
it
you gotta-
with
you gotta emphasize it.
Yeah, the
It's
Theater Podcast.
the theater podcast.
It's not just any old theater podcast. It's the theater podcast. We got Ariana DeBose on there. We got Caroline Carmelo. We got all the folks. It's theater.
So I'm sorry, distracted. My kid needs to go to bed. He's out there screaming.
We've gone too long.
We've gone too far. Theater podcast, theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Facebook.com/official theater podcast. I'm like going through my outro credits in my head right now. I got takeovers with Moulin Rouge from February, and I got the whole 6 cast over my Corn Queen takeover, which was back in May, and I had some Aussie cast on there too. A bunch of 100-something episodes. Yeah, same as you. So bpn.fm is the short link. bpn.fm/MWC, musicals with cheese, or /TTP, the theater podcast. Find us all. Find us both. Got lots there.
There's other stuff on there too, right?
Yeah. Jim and Tomic's on there.
Jim and Tomic. And for those who are still listening, an hour and 22 minutes into this recording.
They are.
Oh, well done. It is,
I see you.
We haven't announced this. But there's an iOS app that we'll be promoting soon. So I don't care if we just kind of leak it out here. So search your iPhone store, Search your iPhone store. Search the App Store for Broadway Podcast Network. We're there. It's some really basic functionality now, but hopefully by the time this airs, we'll have rolled out a kick-ass version, which is what we're waiting on to announce it. So everyone, just install it and get ready.
And for Alan's podcast, I always try to throw in my personal recommendation. I really loved his interview with Eddie Perfect, which is great. Because I love Beetlejuice so much. So
did a Beetlejuice takeover. I forget what month that was, but yeah, Carrie Butler and Alex Timbers, Alex Brightman. Who else did I have? There's one other, I can't remember. Oh, Prom. I did a Prom takeover too. So have all that cast. Casey Nicola as well. Yeah, it was great. Got a bunch of good stuff.
That's wonderful. Alan, we hope to have you on very soon. We will save Head Over Heels for you because I think you'd be a great guest for that.
Awesome. And we'll try to get Bonnie too, because we can get Bonnie on here. We'll do a little co-guest hosting.
Heck yeah. Please follow us on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals, Patreon Musicals with Cheese, Instagram, YouTube, All Musicals with Cheese. We have a patron-only podcast, currently Patreon with Cheese. We're doing the Muppets. We're covering a lot of Muppet stuff on there. There should be
There is Muppet stuff up now.
Yeah, there is Muppet stuff up. Also, I think this will be posting after that. You should be able to see our entire Grinch live stream for the patrons.
Oh, yeah, the Grinch live stream.
Yeah, that's coming up. That would have happened on December 9th, I believe. So that should be up for you patrons to watch forever. So you get a lot of stuff up there. Our email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our transcriptions are done by Masha Litvinova. She is wonderful. We love her to death. We're so happy to have her a part of this team. Our title card was created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Go follow her on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. We love you to death, Juliet. Oh, shit! Oh, I'm so glad we didn't do cheese rating. Oh my god. Okay.
Just keep going. We'll go to it. We'll get to it.
Our show is produced by Brianna Jones. Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform. All right, we gotta tell what is our cheese ratings. Andrew, what's yours?
Oh boy. It's so rushed. Okay, I'm gonna give it like a creamy mozzarella. I'm gonna give it that.
All right, Alan, what is your cheese rating?
I think this episode was pretty Gouda.
Ooh,
He did the thing.
Literally, we talked about it for like 2 years and no one did that gag. And now, like,
It's so lazy, no one wants to do it, but you know what? Someone has to. Someone has to do it.
Listen, I'm a dad. I'm all about the dad puns. That's all I get.
It's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I was a little upset that no one did it for like a full year. So.
So my cheese rating is gonna be some shredded cheese on top of Alanis Morissette's favorite chili recipe, which she has on her website. So that
Does she really?
yes,
Okay.
that was a quick Google for me, but I was able to pull it out.
What type of shredded cheese?
It looks like just box shredded cheese. It looks like cheddar.
Cheddar?
Yeah,
Makes everything
Simple.
better.
yeah. All right, we
Another
You know
pun.
what though? I'm gonna keep this going. That you said your email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. We've been emailing for who knows how long now, and I always read it as musical theater lives. So,
Hey,
like, that makes
musical
sense.
theater lives matter, okay?
Oh, on that note, we'll see you next time on Musical Theater Lives.